Bartoni. You see Bartoni on your left with Byrne. He's number 2 right now in the Season 2 standings, and Tamaiko's number 3 on our overall Player of the Year standings. But as I mentioned, Oliver's already qualified for our Players' Championship at the end of the year, and Jeremy would like to be. So we are going to see Oliver start things off with a Blackcleave Cliffs. Here is a Monastery Swiss Beer. I can't imagine that will live long. Lightning Bolt will take care of that, and we are underway here in round number 13 from Dallas. It's an Inquisition of Kozilek here from Oliver. Skewer the Critics, Monastery Swiss Beer, Rift Bolts, plural, I believe, along with a snow-covered mountain and an inspiring vantage is what Bertarioni is looking at.
Pretty good news here for Tamaiko. You can either take the 1 threat card and leave Bertarioni with a handful of burn spells at a comfortable life total, or if you have another removal spell to line up against the Swiss Beer, take one of the burn spells. In any event, Bertarioni is not off to a very good start here. Tamaiko's answered the first threat, now attacking the hand, and has yet to take any damage.
Inquisition's going to take care of Monastery Swift Spear. Blood Crypt will enter the battlefield tapped, and Oliver's going to pass the turn back over to Bertarioni. Keep in mind that Oliver made that real late season push in Season 1 to qualify off of the back of the Power of Dredge in Modern, a deck that he won and opened with. His Rift Bolts will go on suspend, but he can't play that deck anymore, or at least he thinks so. Perhaps he's able to find a build that doesn't have Faithless Looting, as some players have started doing on Magic Online. For now, he's playing Jund. We'll have to see if he's got green mana. He's going to fire off a Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is going to take Skewer the Critics, a 3rd Inspiring Vantage, and a Snow-Covered Mountain is all that's left for Bertarioni. So Tamaiko's going to fall down to 12 from the Rift Bolts, but if you're Tamaiko, I don't know, things are doing okay except for the lack of green mana.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the matchup, in my opinion, really comes down to how much damage is the Jund player forced to take getting their mana off the ground. If they can keep it clean and just play their interactive spells on time, the matchup's pretty good for Jund. If you have to spend a lot of, fetch lands, and especially if you have to play any Ravnica dual lands untapped, the matchup gets a lot harder.
Well, there's your green mana, and there is a Tarmogoyf. Sunbaked Canyon will be sacrificed here for Bertarioni, and now we head back over to Jeremy. He'll draw another card. I was a little wary of him not cracking that Sunbaked Canyon on his own turn in case he drew a 1-drop creature like a Goblin Guide or a Swiftblade, or a Swift Spear.
Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. The consideration from Bertarioni's side is if he rips a 2, and that's his best way of coming back in the game, is trading together some Boros Charms, it is now vulnerable to a discard spell.
Sure.
So I think he was trying to protect his highest value targets at the expense of maybe giving up some damage if the top card was Goblin Guide or Monastery Swift Spear.
Lava Spike plus Eidolon the Great Revel is what Bertarioni ended up doing on his last turn. For Tamaiko, he's got a 4/5 Tarmogoyf and a Bloodbraid Elf that cascaded into an Inquisition of Kozilek that Tamaiko elected not to cast. So Tamaiko thinks he's going to get his racing shoes on, says, I got to try to get this game over with. So here comes the Tarmogoyf and the Bloodbraid Elf, an attack here for 7. Jeremy's going to fall down to 13, and we are certainly racing now, partner.
Yep, and Tamaiko, there's an incentive on his side to get the game over with. Also, to sort of pin Bertarioni under his own Eidolon. You get it low enough. If Bertarioni has to chain together multiple spells to get the game over with, the Eidolon could end up being as problematic, or even more so for him, than it is for Tamaiko.
Tamaiko's going to fall down to 7, has 2 lands and a Kolaghan's Command in hand. That Kolaghan's Command, if Bertarioni does remember the trigger with Eidolon of the Great Revel, will deal Oliver 2. So we can put Oliver maybe at a theoretical 5 life right now. He's got to figure out how he wants to attack, though. We saw him attack with both creatures last turn. Will we see him do it again this turn? There also might be some interest in blowing up that Eidolon, putting an enchantment in the graveyard for Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, I mean that play, unfortunately, if you were just to do that straight away, Tamaiko falls to 5 from the Eidolon trigger, and it doesn't really appreciably speed up the clock. And then it's any 2 spells from Bertarioni gets the game over with. So Tamaiko's trying to do this dance of don't play anything and run down Bertarioni's life total such that the Eidolon could end up killing Bertarioni. The problem with that line is that he has to take 2 on the way back here. But the way the race is shaping up now, things are good for Tamaiko. Bertarioni is going to be compelled to act first, and those Eidolon triggers might not be something he can withstand.
It's 6-7 in favor of Tamaiko right now. Keep in mind, Oliver does have that Kolaghan's Command in hand. This is an attack for 2. Will Tomiko make a move? Should he make a move?
I don't think you would. I don't think you should do it now because you take two either way, either from the Eidolon trigger or the Eidolon hitting you. And if you kill the Eidolon and fall to 5, now there's nothing jamming up Bertarioni just casting his spells. If you keep the Eidolon in play and Bertarioni casts 2 spells, you can kill him in response because he takes 4 from the triggers off the Eidolon, and then you can Kolaghan's Command him.
Well, it's 6-5.
So again, the way the game is going now for Tomiko is favorable. The burden is on Bertarioni to act first, and so Tomiko's saying, you got to go and act first.
Well, Tomiko says you go ahead and act first. So now here's a bolt. Now, do you respond to the bolt?
Nope. Because he's going to die to the if he casts another. Oh, if the bolt's knocking Tomiko down to 2.
Correct.
Yeah, then you've got to.
Because Tomiko went to 5 from the attack.
Right.
So if you respond with the Kolaghan's Command now, you go to 3. And then
Bertarioni can't cast another spell.
Well, so you let the Eidolon trigger resolve.
Right.
So then if you let the Eidolon trigger resolve, you Kolaghan's Command, you put him down to 2, but Oliver goes down to 3, and then he dies to the bolt. So now here's another burn spell, and there's no way for Oliver to wiggle himself out of this. 2 bolts is going to get the job done, and Jeremy Bertarioni is going to win game number 1 here over Oliver Tomiko. Burn is up a game over Jund. I'm not sure if there's a way for Tomiko to maneuver around that.
Well, I mean, the one way, the option that he has is basically to try to trade off the Bloodbraid Elf for the
Eidolon.
But that die was cast turns ago.
Sure.
And I think Tomiko's line was the correct one. It looks a little awkward at the end, but if he does any action to kill the Eidolon, it slows down his clock. He takes the 2 damage anyway, and then Bertarioni's in the clear to cast his spells without any sort of problem. So, like I said, doesn't look good. I agree with Tomiko's line. I thought he approached it the right way. Bertarioni just had a couple fortuitous draw steps there at the end.
Well, we go to the sideboards here. We'll start with Oliver on the right. He's got 3 Collector Brutalities, 2 Alpine Moons, 2 Collector Oof, 2 Fulminator Mage, 2 Plague Engineer, 2 Huntmaster of the Fells, a Nihil Spellbomb, and Ancient Grudge. There's some good cards here.
Yeah, 5 cards that really matter here, and the 3 copies of Collective Brutality and the 2 copies of Huntmaster of the Fells. The rest of these cards seem well below the bar.
We go to the other side of things. We'll see for Jeremy. He's got 4 Core Firewalkers, 3 Smash the Smithereens, 2 Grim Lavamancer, 2 Skullcrack, 2 Exquisite Firecraft, and 2 Path to Exile.
So the cards that sideboarding against Jund is weird because a lot of your cards are good against half of their deck and not good against the other half. The cards worth considering, in my opinion, the 2 copies of Grim Lavamancer. Sometimes the ground gets a little locked up, so it's nice to have something that can deal damage outside of combat. The 2 Skullcracks. Jund plays with some things that gain some life: Collective Brutality, Scavenging Ooze, Huntmaster of the Fells, Obstinate Battle-Off, what have you. Lines up well against those sorts of cards. The Path to Exiles, you don't want to have that much removal, but it can answer a Tarmogoyf. A lot of your other cards can't. And oddly enough, Exquisite Firecraft, also a card worth considering here. They attack your hand so much and the game can be slow enough where you just want to have as many cards in your deck as possible that have a high impact when drawn. And Exquisite Firecraft is another Boros charm. I know the Uncounterable Clause isn't going to come up here, but Bertarioni might want to fill his deck with more cards that are just more impactful as individual cards.
Well, those are the options there for both players, and what is traditionally a pretty close matchup. Oliver just barely losing that one. Jeremy just barely winning it. So these players will get ready here for game number 2 in just a moment. We want to go over our standings here on the SCG Tour. Our seasonal standings is where Jeremy Bertarioni, pardon me, Jeremy, is where he's sitting and what matters right now, because if we were to end things this weekend, he'd be headed to the Players' Championship, joining Oliver, along with Aaron Barrich and Dominic Harvey. You see the top 3 players from Season 2 at the end of it will be qualifying for the Players' Championship, just like Oliver did last season. Kane Reinhardt, Collins, Mullen, Harlan Fear, Joseph Horton, Peter Ingram, they got some catching up to do. And for Jeremy, he's having another great weekend here, so he might be able to build a bit of a lead on these players, though no lead is safe here on the SCG Tour. So we'll have to see how this game and the rest of this match does shake out. For our Player of the Year standings, that's where Oliver is doing incredibly well. He is in 3rd place, and you see the small lead that Dominic Harvey and Abe Corrigan have over him. So if Oliver is able to keep up his winning ways, he will be able to move up to 1st place there, get himself the Player of the Year award. We got Matthew Dilks, Zan Said, Ross Merriam, Jonathan Hobbs, and Edgar Magayish. Most of those players in attendance. We do miss you, Matthew, not here this weekend, but Zan, Ross, Jay Hobbs, and Edgar, whose last name is a doozy, but we can do it. Magayesh. They're all here, but it looks like Tomaiko is going to be leading this Player of the Year race at the end of the weekend, most likely.
Well, yes, he's built up a bit of a lead, but I mean, you look at the top 8 both of Season 2 and of the Player of the Year race. A lot of the players right now sitting at X1, X2, X3 are on those top 8 names, so might be a lot of movement here.
A Wooded Foothills and a passing the turn here from Oliver over to Jeremy. Jeremy's going to start things off with a Swift Spear once again off of Inspiring Vantage. Oliver's going to sacrifice that Wooded Foothills and see if it'll be a basic mountain or a Shockland. It will be a basic mountain. A lot of the time you don't find Jund having a basic mountain because of Blood Moon.
Right.
You don't really have to worry about it. You'll normally find some number of swamps and forests, but you don't see a basic mountain all the time. We do see it here, though, for Tomaiko.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's informed in some part by the presence of burn in the room. I mean, just being able to fetch for basics is something that changes the matchup here.
An Overgrown Tomb untapped into a Tarmogoyf. That's going to be a 3-4 Tarmogoyf. We'll get our Tarmo die out there for you fine folks at home. Make sure we can keep track of the powerful Lurgoyf. As now we have another Inspiring Vantage here for Jeremy, and it's an Eidolon of the Great Revel. Not so great on the draw when facing down a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, I mean, Tomaiko can manage the race a lot easier than he could in the previous game. Even if he has a removal spell, he may not be compelled to act, although getting an enchantment in the graveyard could also accelerate the clock for Tarmogoyf.
Here comes Tarmogoyf. Batarioni is going to take that hit. He's going to fall down to 17. Tomaiko's follow-up is another Tarmogoyf. He'll take 2 to cast it and fall down to 15, but that's another 3-4 on the battlefield. A land that enters the battlefield tapped there in Overgrown Tomb and passing it back to Batarioni, and all of a sudden Jeremy's in some real trouble this game.
This is a really good window for Path to Exile. That's the card you'd want to have here.
Well, here is Swift Spear. He'll take 2 to cast that. He'll fall down to 15. Patrick says a path would be good. Does he have a path? He's got a Rift Bolt that's going to go on suspend, so no path here. And I got a feeling it might be time for Eidolon the Great Revel to maybe do some blocking.
Yeah, I mean, you don't like to chump block because it frees up Tomaiko's hand and you're putting an enchantment in the graveyard. But the current pace of things may not be sustainable for very long.
Tomaiko draws a card. He's got a copy of Tireless Tracker and Bloodbraid Elf in hand. Unclear if he's got the 4th land that will allow him to play the Bloodbraid Elf.
I played a lot against Jund, and really the matchup comes down to Eidolon the Great Revel. It's one of the most dynamic cards in any matchup in all of Modern. Here it ranges from lights out to active drawback for the burn player, depending on the shape of the game, and trying to time it right, timing your removals right. So the sort of approach to the game the Jund player has, do I try to just kill it and move on and take some damage, or do I leave it on the battlefield and try to just play around it? It's a very interesting and dynamic card, and it really shapes the game.
Tarmogoyf will attack, and I'm not too surprised to see Eidolon the Great Revel do some blocking, but as you mentioned, this now unlocks Tomaiko's hand. He's free to play whatever he'd like now with not much of a drawback. So here's an Inquisition of Kozilek. We'll get an idea of what Batarioni is working with. I see a Skewer the Critics. Let's actually make it 2 of them, a Lava Spike and a Lightning Helix.
It's interesting because from an efficiency standpoint, the Helix is the chunkiest card in the hand, but if it comes down to a really tight damage race, gaining 3 might matter more than the pure mana efficiency of the other options.
Funny to think, Lightning Helix, a card that's over 10 years old, about 13 years old since it came out in an original Ravnica block, still doing a nice job.
Yeah.
Across many formats. Heck of a Magic card. Skewer's going to bite the dust.
It's a great one, too. I mean, it's just so simple, so iconic for the color pairing. Good for aggressive decks, good for control decks. By no means too powerful. You know, it's a fundamentally fair Magic card.
Rift Bolt's going to go upstairs. Tomaiko's going to fall down to 12.
And Tomaiko there making the call that the mana efficiency matters more than gaining 3 from the Helix.
Batarioni will draw a card. Get a great look at it. Now we know he's got 9 points of burn in his hand, so he's got to get all of this burn out of his hand and try to win this game because these Tarmogoyfs are breathing down his neck.
Right, and I think from Tomaiko's kind of position here is that Lightning Helix gets Batarioni to an effective 18. I don't believe that's worth an extra turn here if he's hitting in chunks of 10. It's 20 damage over the 2 turns. So Batarioni going from 15 to 18 really doesn't make that much of a difference.
Ooh, a little surprised to see that land enter the battlefield tapped. So that one, we know his hand, right? Helix, Skewer, and Spike.
Yes.
Do you think you play that untapped, play one of your 1 mana spells, and then Helix, that's a real question there.
Yeah.
Because he might get gummed up and draw another 2. Well,
all right.
I'm going to cut myself off right here because that's the perfect cascade, my friend.
Yeah, Collective Brutality is probably going to be too much for this to overcome. I think Tomiko's asking, am I allowed to escalate?
Off of Cascade, yeah,
right.
That's the big question here. That was the perfect Cascade there for Oliver Tomiko, and I think he might do the full escalate here. Well, he doesn't really need much else to try to win this game, I don't think. He'll just escalate it once. It'll be a duress and a drain. I suppose the ability to -2/-2 isn't particularly good here because Swift Spear is going to become a 2/3.
Well, the question is, it gives you the chance to trade with the Bloodbraid Elf or not. That's the cost there, but who really cares?
Yep. Spike's going to bite the dust. Skewer is all that's going to be left over. Tomiko's going to gain a little bit of life and lose some from the Helix, but that's the perfect reveal on the Cascade. Here come the Tarmogoyfs. Does Bloodbraid Elf want to attack too? That's a real question. I think the answer is probably yes.
Yeah, but I think last turn, I don't think it matters now. The Collective Brutality is going to be too much, but I think last turn Bertarioni is supposed to play it untapped because the way that this is shaping up, if he had drawn a 2-mana spell next turn, he couldn't cast everything.
Stuck.
It would be lethal, and he couldn't cast everything.
Yep.
And the 2 damage off the Sacred Foundry, I don't think would have changed the clock here at all. Bertarioni is dead over the course of 2 turns, one way or the other.
And there is no draw step, to my knowledge, that Bertarioni can draw in this spot. So if he has Path to Exile in his deck, running Paths would keep him alive. But if he kept that Swift Spear, and he were to draw something like a Boros Charm, that's 4, Skewer is 7, that's 2 prowess triggers, that'd be 8, 9, 10, so he'd be 1 point short. Oliver Tomiko going to win game number 2 here over Jeremy Bertarioni. Jund and Burn are all tied up, but if you're Jeremy, you got to be feeling pretty good about things because you're on the play for game number 3 with Burn.
Yep, and sideboarding in this matchup's really complicated and very play draw dependent as well. I think the creatures get a lot better on the play, and so it's possible, depending on exactly what Bertarioni did, that he has sided in 8 cards, and the cards that he sided out from game to game will be entirely different, no overlap.
Well, the Players' Championship is coming up a little bit later this year. Oliver Tomiko's already qualified. Jeremy Bertarioni would like to be, and we'd like you to learn more about that tournament right now.
It's been a while, but I feel like I've seen this movie before. Pass the turn back. Is it a top deck?
Oh
it's
my
a
God.
Pendelhaven. Pump and attack? Is this real?
Oh my God. Oh no.
December 13th through the 15th later this year, Players' Championship, 1 champion. Can Joe Lissette defend the title? We'll have to see. Should be a lot of fun to watch. Perhaps Oliver could take it from him, or Jeremy could as well if he's able to qualify for that tournament, which he's in pretty good shape to do, especially if he wins this game and goes on to the top 8 later today.
I'm interested to see if Lissette still got his fastball.
You think
it's been
so,
a couple years.
It has been.
Been a couple years.
Yep. Haven't seen him much over here on the SCD Tour this year, unfortunately, but we know one time where we will see him, and it's later this year in Roanoke, Virginia for that Players' Championship.
Is he coming to Syracuse?
It's Legacy.
Get his legacy on?
I don't know if Joe's into Legacy as much as he used to be because, Miracles is still good. I don't know if Miracles is still Miracles. But I'd love to watch Joe play some Legacy. And Legacy is a brand new format from what we covered 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
I've been getting re-engaged with the Legacy format
I wouldn't
the
call
hard
it that.
way.
Yeah, that I would agree with. I don't know about re-engaged. You're just playing a bad deck.
I've played Burn. I have Plateaus in my sideboard for a couple white cards that are experimental. I've played in 2 leagues. I've gone 3-2 in both leagues.
Nice.
And after each league going 3-2, I've thought, I must be the greatest Magic player alive.
Yeah.
I must be the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
This deck is pitiful. I remember really, 5 or 6, 7.
Really bad.
I remember 5 or 6, 7 years ago being like, okay, so I wouldn't call it tier 1, but it is actually good against some of the good decks in the format. And if you practice and play, you can. It's fine. It's not the best thing to be doing by any stretch, but it's fine. You can do well in tournaments. Now, I every opening hand I draw up, I go, I have no idea how I'm supposed to win the game.
Yeah. It's heinous.
But 3-2. The record speaks for itself. And a treasure chest, your reward for going 3-2, is more valuable than a plateau. So I am building up equity in the account as we go along.
I suppose that's true.
I'm going to keep playing these leagues until I get to deflecting Palm Merit Lage, and then I'm going to retire. I want that screenshot, and then I can retire.
Well, here's what I'll say. Yeah, you better have a screenshot, or I'm not interested.
Got Chain of Rocks, a Gurmag Angler.
That's not bad.
That wasn't bad.
Did you win that game?
And match.
Okay.
The other games, all my plateaus got wastelanded. But so that was game 3.
Bro.
What?
Bro.
I'm just saying.
These plateaus are unacceptably bad. Can we just admit that, finally? The plateaus are really bad?
I will have you know that I've been sort of cruising around the hall. Some dealers got some alpha and beta plateaus, and I'm considering it.
Bud. We need to have a... you can play, like, good cards.
I know.
Okay.
And it's not an availability issue either.
I know.
I got it all.
But, at the end of the day, do what makes you happy. I think
it's starting to make me less happy.
I know that. That's why we're having this conversation right now. I know it's beginning to make you less happy.
It's starting to make me less happy.
I watch it in the room.
Yeah.
I watch it. I'm
Just
part of it.
Every opening land, every single land they play on turn 1, I go...
Yeah, there is no good land to see. There's no good land to see.
There's no good land.
Even, is basic planes like Death and Taxes, is that even okay? Not really.
I mean, you're behind.
Okay.
You're behind in the matchup for sure.
You got your clock cleaned by elves and that create a player card. You never seen
all right,
before?
so any 2-mana land, you're dead.
Yep.
Plains, that's tough. Forest is tough. That's either Merit Lage or Elves. Islands,
Really
a
bad.
lot of good blue cards out there. A lot of blue cards. So, a black land, Duress and Dark Ritual.
Storm, yeah, you're dead.
Right, a mountain, probably Chalice of the Void.
Yeah.
Very likely. It can't be that one. Any 5-color land, even City of Brass, it means you're dead on the second turn.
It's true. So what would you say you do here?
I guess the land you're rooting to see on the first turn is Tropical Island. That's your best hope.
Okay.
It means they're playing a bad blue deck.
Okay. They could be playing like...
You're good against the card Renin 6. You need their deck to be built around Renin 6, and then you're competitive.
Dude, nice. Swift Spear, 1. This might go down to 19. Legacy action in Syracuse. 2 weeks?
Can't wait.
Is it 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Jeez. Blackleaf Cliffs, untapped. Here we go. Back over to Jeremy Battarioni. He's got a copy of Boros Charm in hand. No idea if he's a second land. We'll have to find out here in just a moment.
Yeah. It's on 5 cards this game.
There is a Sun-Baked Canyon in there. I want to push you around. Well, I will. Overturf shaking his head.
All right, so Michael has Collective Brutality in his hand because he's giving Battarioni the option to Boros Charm to save it, and he would only do that if he had Collective Brutality to follow up with.
That's your read?
Yes.
Well, he just drew Collective Brutality, so that doesn't mean that you were right. Inquisition. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he drew Inquisition. What's this? Bong! You're at 15. Bolt down, Fiery Islet left. I think I do see Collective Brutality. Whatever.
If I was Battarioni, if I was Battarioni, I know I'm going to lose this game, but I would be insulted. Insulted. You must think I'm an idiot.
Here's Tarmogoyf.
Oliver, you must think I'm a damn fool.
Well, it doesn't matter because you can't beat anything.
We're in garbage time. It doesn't matter. Who cares, right?
Tarmogoyf's a 4/5, Rift Bolt on suspend.
But I would know what he meant by it.
Oh, here we go.
It's asking a lot. If it's Collective Brutality, I mean, forget about it. That's an enchantment in the graveyard to boot.
That's true. Making a lot of good points there. Rift Bolt, 1 counter. Eidolon of the Great Revel in the house. Goyf, Haumf. 14-15, Oliver takes the lead. This isn't, oh boy. Take 2 for another Tarmogoyf, huh?
Worth noting, Tomiko did not even bother to bolt the Eidolon first.
Nah, leave
he
it
wants
there.
Battarioni to have to play through it.
Yeah, leave it there. What's this? Crack the Islet. Draw a card. Important draw step here for Jeremy. We got 10 to 12. I would be blocking. I would tender a block.
You must think I'm an idiot.
I think it might be time to let's clear the way of this Eidolon. I think there's the collective brew.
Just telling me you have a brutality in your hand.
It's drain, kill Eidolon. Tarmogoyf is now a 5-power creature. This is yeah, it's 10. So
It's
and you're at 10, I think. Yeah. So yeah. Yep. That's it.
that's yeah.
Oliver to Maiko.